Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Guys Who Stare at Stats. The day before Thanksgiving, always a fun time, a lot of sports to get into. Early in the morning here for us, 8:12 a.m. Officially going to be an interesting show for sure. But as always, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment below. If you're watching on Twitch, as always, feel free to give us a follow. We always appreciate it. But now, the most important question of the day. Andrew, Connor, how are y'all doing this morning?
Tired.
Well,
Tired,
that's an easy way to explain it.
Yeah, but it's good. It's another day of just talking about sports. It's one thing that's great about this.
I'm doing pretty good. Finally get a few days off here, but I'm excited to dive in here to sports and preview some of the Thanksgiving games and get this on the road.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Number one, as you can probably already see on that camera, lighting is actually an issue for once today. I can't believe usually when we do this, it's already dark outside, but sun wants to come out today. There's not a problem with that. But let's get right into it, starting with, what happened last night, the college football playoff rankings coming out. Georgia, of course, still on top. The top four are pretty much the same. But the big controversy is that 5 through 8 category. A lot of people upset. LSU holds on to that 5th spot, USC 6th. And the same thing with Alabama over Clemson. People upset. Why are there two 9-2 SEC teams over 10-1 teams from other conferences?
Well, I'd say with it's like the one I can probably give them LSU to some extent because USC they lost the one game early in the year and yet has pretty much overall they've played very good for rest of their season. Then obviously LSU had 2 early losses, but then LSU's overall played like a much better team. And the thing is, the way I look at it is that I know me and you talked about it earlier, is that it'll sort itself out with the way the things are. I know people are upset now, but it's like if the scenario of where if USC wins out, it's not going to be an issue because LSU's got to play Georgia. Now it would become an issue if Georgia somehow loses to LSU, which is a possibility right there. Alabama jumping Clemson. Clemson has just not been playing overall the best football within the last 3-4 weeks. Overall, are they winning games? Yes. But it's one of those where it's like, kind of, as Alabama overall hasn't really missed a step, besides obviously with the 2 losses, but those were to good teams. So I can't really say much about on that. Oregon, obviously, they're fine where they're at, and then you have Tennessee, who needs to be where they're at.
Yeah, it'll play itself out, but they're creating themselves an issue here. If LSU does win out, then the USC has no chance. In that regard, like you said, they'll probably beat Georgia in that case. So then you're going to take a one-loss Georgia, you're going to take an undefeated Big Ten, you're going to take an undefeated Big 12, and then you're going to take the LSU that just beat Georgia rather than taking USC, who did just beat 2 top 15 teams. So, no, they've created the problem for themselves. I disagree with it. I think USC should be ahead of LSU, and Clemson should be ahead of them as well. Again, it does create an interesting dynamic here, though. We'll see how it does play out. And who's to say TCU doesn't lose to a Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game, and there goes TCU's chances because you're not going to one-loss TCU over a one-loss Big Ten, over a one-loss USC, and probably not even a one-loss Clemson. So TCU can only get in if they win out, in my opinion. So we'll see how that plays out. It'll be interesting to see, though, if hypothetically let's say Georgia wins, let's say Ohio State wins, you're going to take a one-loss Big Ten or a one-loss USC in Michigan. Like, they lost to the number 2 team in the country. So it's going to be interesting to see how they take that into regards. But again, they created the problem themselves by having this in the first place and not having a USC there because USC deserves it without question.
Yeah. I know I wasn't really mentioning it, but I do agree with you. It's not the right decision. USC should be ahead. Clemson, at least I'd say I'd flip LSU. I would flip LSU with USC and Clemson ahead because it's still the 1 losses, and then Alabama would be right behind, and then LSU. Or LSU would be in front of Alabama. That's how I would have done it. And if Michigan does lose this weekend, and depending on how the game goes, if they play it close with Ohio State, they'll be very forgiving and might only drop maybe 2 spots and then are basically set up to get back in it. That's pretty much how I look at it. And if TCU does end up losing in the Big 12 title game, it won't matter because Michigan can just move right back in that 4 or 3 spot, depending on how things go.
To me, it'll be interesting to see how this Ohio State-Michigan game plays out. To me, this is an important game, obviously not just because it's 2-3, but for the implications behind it. I think if Michigan loses this game, they're done. There's no way an 11-1 with their strength of schedule, with who they played in their non-conference, with how their conference schedule's lined up. You have your 2 big games of Penn State and Ohio State, and you split them. Now, if Ohio State is able to lose that game, if Michigan gets the win there, Michigan obviously would get in. But Ohio State, they have that Notre Dame win, which would help out a little bit more. And knowing how the committee works, sometimes quality wins and quality losses can be the same thing almost. I would not be surprised if Ohio State was able to lose this game but still find a way to sneak in with enough chaos.
Well, I think that goes for both of them, to be honest. I mean, I get they're not hand-to-hand the same schedule, but the same conference. I think Big Ten's respected very well. So, I mean, I think both of them, in the event of TCU losing, I think a one-loss Big Ten's getting in over a one-loss USC. Well, yeah, I don't know. It all depends on how much they value the conference championship game, and they kind of change it every year. There's no consistency, so really fans don't know.
It's like my whole thing is like I think it's like if USC wins out and Michigan obviously still if they lose, and more than likely they need TCU to lose and they need LSU to lose to get them right back in it because then they'll be given that more respect in regards to how that's set up. But if that other stuff doesn't happen, Michigan would be the one team not be able to get. Ohio State has a better shot of getting in if you just talk in terms of schedule, which is strength of schedule. But both Ohio State and Michigan would be given more of the benefit of the doubt whoever loses this weekend. And it'll have to come down to other scenarios, some certain scenarios.
I was surprised South Carolina didn't jump in there at the bottom.
Yeah, that's.
Because I think they're 7-4 as well. So
Yeah,
I'm surprised a win like that didn't put them in over Louisville or Texas, or even an 8-3 UCF, especially the way we've seen them kind of respect that conference in the past.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised to see that, especially after a big win. Not even like they just find a way to sneak by them; they completely demolished them.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, the UCF was the other big one I had concerns over. You lose to at the time 3-7 Navy team, and they're only going to fall 2 spots for that. I don't get it. I really don't understand why UCF gets that respect there. Yes, they've beaten Tulane. Yes, they've beaten Cincinnati. But you have 2 other losses that are not that good. Losing to East Carolina earlier in the year as well is one of those that sticks out to me. Is you got to be able to win on the road. We've seen this before in the American.
Yeah, way I looked at it was that game was like, if this I would say like if it was like say K-State, if it was K-State, if that happened in K-State would have immediately dropped out. Would be dropped like really way down to the bottom or maybe dropped out entirely. But obviously they're way up at 12, so I can't really on that. But it's like if they were kind of like where UCF was, they would have been dropped out immediately in regards to how that would have go. But the fact it's just weird how UCF was just only dropped 2. I don't know what the committee was thinking, but it's like you lost to a 3-7 Navy team. So pretty much we're all baffled by it.
I think it's one of those, you got to earn your respect, and the way UCF was able to rise, especially their undefeated season in 17, which helped pave the way for Cincinnati to get into the playoff last year. You build enough respect on your own based on your personal brand, and that can help you later on, which is not how it should work, but that's how it does work.
Brand power, I guess.
Yes, brand power is a pretty important thing in college football. But moving on to the other thing to talk about college football. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of games this week. No specific one day because from Thanksgiving all the way to Saturday, and I mean we had games last night as well. Who doesn't love action, folks? You'll love to see it. But the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving Day, the Black Friday games, a whole lot of big matchups across the board. We got to start, though, with clean, old-fashioned hate. Georgia taking on Georgia Tech. Dogs are 35.5-point favorites in this one, and for good reason. Georgia Tech, though, is coming off that big upset win of North Carolina.
I would say for this one, depending on it mainly will come down to how does Georgia's offense play this week. to really get them. It's like their defense, without any question, will play very good, but we'll see how their offense overall will do. See if Stetson Bennett can rebound. Stetson Bennett and company can rebound from last week in regards to only getting 16 points. Though that game was without a doubt was Georgia was going to win that one, regardless of the score, because their defense was that good. But we'll see how better they'll play. That way, that you could possibly say something about the spread. I'd say Georgia Tech will give them a good first half fight, and then Georgia will just slowly pull away eventually and get about double-digit lead.
Yeah, I think Georgia wins this game easily, but Georgia Tech covers. I think it's going to be similar to the Kentucky game. Georgia just seems bored out there, to be honest. Like, it's like, we know we're going to beat these guys. We're just going to do what we need to do to survive. I mean, they haven't beaten a team by over 30 points since October 15th, so I mean, again, it looks like they're just going out there. They're just like, we're going to do what we can to survive. And especially in that Kentucky game, the defense is going to go out there and not give up any points, and the offense is going to do enough to survive. So, honestly, I think it's going to be similar to last week. We'll go along the lines of like a 30-10 game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see here. Georgia has a streak. They have not let the Yellow Jackets score on them in, well, a while, to be nice. I believe the last 2 or 3 games have been shutouts. It's been pretty interesting to see what's happened there. I think Georgia keeps that streak going. It's something important to them, and I think Georgia rolls in this one. They don't cover that 35.5 purely because their offense hasn't been capable of it, but something like a 31-0 type win seems about right for the Dogs.
Yep.
But obviously the big one here, they call it the game for a reason. Well, because it's one of the most important games of the year every single time they get together. Ohio State and Michigan, number 2 versus number 3. Buckeyes at home are a 7.5-point favorite in this one.
I actually like that spread. I think Ohio State's come out with a lot of vengeance after last year. I think they get their revenge this year. I'm going to take the Buckeyes to stay undefeated. I think they're the most complete team in college football this year. And I got to stick behind my boy Jim Knowles. Give me Ohio State to cover as well.
I'd say it's going to do we know injury situation with Blake Corum? Is he out for this week? Or
I don't know exactly, but stuff I've been hearing would indicate he would probably be out for this week.
Okay. I'd say that's going to definitely hurt their run game, and especially Michigan loves to run the football, and if he's not in that game, it's like we'll see how it goes, but if he somehow does play, he probably won't get as much touches as he probably would, and if he wasn't injured, I would expect him to have a huge day against Ohio State. Not saying it would be probably enough to win the game because you have to do more than just run the football, but I'd say for this one, it's like Michigan and Ohio State, it's going to be a really good football game, but at the end of the day, as much as I dislike Ohio State, I'm going to take the Buckeyes to win this one.
To me, this is one of those that, I mean, if Corum comes back and plays, that's great, but it's not going to change anything. I think Ohio State rolls by double digits here. Buckeyes want revenge. Michigan's going to get shut down at times. Ohio State's defense, this is going to be a statement game for them that we deserve that number 1 spot.
I hope I'm wrong, though. I want a good game coming down to the final.
Yeah, I think we all want a good game, but I don't know. After how last week went, or the last few weeks, you could even say, with Michigan, it's just like, I don't know, guys.
Also, why can't this game be at night? Like, can we start putting the good games on prime time?
Well, this one's always been 11 a.m. because they don't want to play in 15-degree weather at night. Has always been their take on it.
It's either been the morning or afternoon they usually play, but usually it's always the morning, or at least 11 a.m.
Yeah, 'cause you got to get a big noon kickoff, and game day will be there, so everyone will be there. Also, the first time since 2006 that both teams are 11-0 going into the game. So
it's kind of wild to think about, especially the way they've talked about their program. You think they would have gone into the final game both undefeated several times, but nope, it's only the second time.
Yeah, usually one of them's 11-0 and the other one's like 10-1 or something like that. But still a big game nonetheless. And the next one here, TCU, the number 4 team in the country, trying to keep that undefeated streak going, trying to get to that 12-0 record and a clean slate in Arlington. But they have to deal with Iowa State, who, if there's one thing the Cyclones could do, it is shut teams down. One of the best defenses in the Big 12. TCU 10-point favorites in this one, but that over-under at 47.5.
This is the Steelers of college football. I mean, they have a coach that always just keeps them in the game, no matter who the talent is against them. And I think they do the same thing here on Saturday. I think they're going to find a way to stay in the game. Are they going to win the game? I don't think so. I think TCU is going to do enough to keep their perfect season hopes and their undefeated season alive. But no, I think Iowa State covers the spread. I think it's going to be actually a pretty good football game. But I'll take TCU in a close 24-20 win.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. TCU and Iowa State. It's going to be close one, but TCU just will slowly chip away at Iowa State and extend their lead to get the spread.
Yeah, this is one of those that you look at it. On paper, you would think, okay, TCU runs away with this, but this is what Iowa State's done to everybody. They're going to grind it out. They're going to make this a game that just looks way tougher than it should be. TCU will find a way to win, but it might take some last-minute heroics again. But I think the Frogs do get the win. The next one here, LSU, number 5 in the country, going into Aggie Land to take on Texas A&M. An A&M team that, well, just about everything that has gone wrong and can go wrong is just, it seems it's just double than what you would think it is. A&M 4-7 on the year, trying to end the season on a positive note, but they are 10-point home underdogs in this one.
Yeah, A&M's going to do everything they can to obviously win this game. I think they're going to keep it close. I think they're a team where, yeah, obviously things haven't gone the way we all expected it would for them. I think they're a team you still have to take serious. I don't think you can overlook them or else they might shock you. But I think LSU, they got a veteran coach out there. I know it's his first year there in Brian Kelly, but he'll have the team ready. I think LSU does cover the 10 points.
I think LSU probably gets about 13, 16 points lead to win this game. A&M, just things will still continue to go wrong. LSU, it's going to be a tough matchup. A&M's defense is going to do what they can to shut down LSU, but without really much of a huge offensive threat for the Aggies, I don't see how LSU loses this game. I think LSU takes it.
Yeah, I think LSU wins this one as well. I mean, as long as they don't overlook A&M for that Georgia game coming down the line at Atlanta, which I don't think Brian Kelly's team will do, LSU will roll in this one and get to that 10-win season that, well, not a lot of people thought they would get to this year. But the other big one to get at, Notre Dame and USC, the real primetime game. So there you go, Andrew. We got a big primetime game on Saturday Night Football, ABC. Going to be a fun one, of course. Trojans are 5.5-point favorites. USC is in that playoff conversation. Caleb Williams, he is now, you could say, the front runner for the Heisman race, if you want to say that. I know betting odds are slowly going up for him, and I think Caleb is now officially the front runner. So interesting to see how that will all work now with the lights, the big win for the Trojans, obviously, over UCLA last week. But Notre Dame, they've been in this situation before. They know that it would mean everything to play spoiler here. Get that 9-win regular season. This should be a great one.
Yeah, what a year for Notre Dame. Save their season after everything in the world, I mean, you name it, went wrong for them to start the season. And somehow they're able to survive the season and come away with possibly 9 wins. Or even 10 wins if they were to win this in the bowl game. I remember we were sitting here talking after the injuries, and everything, and they had a new coach, and we're like, what do you look for in a season for Notre Dame now? Like, you look for just getting to a bowl game because of how much went wrong for them at the start of the year. So what an incredible year for first-year head coach Freeman out there, and just a tremendous year. And I think Notre Dame, though, obviously, they're going to stay in the game here. I think they're going to give USC everything they got. I think it's going to come down to the final possession. And Notre Dame's their defense is going to be able to keep USC in check, and I think you're going to get a pretty close game here. But give me the Trojans here late in the game, 27-23.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. It's going to be a really solid football game throughout the whole, but I think it comes some late-game heroics from Caleb Williams and company to get the Trojans the victory to still keep their season playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, this is going to be one that I would not be surprised if we see USC jump out to an early lead, slowly lose it over the course of the game, comes down to the wire, and Caleb Williams makes a big play or two to lock up his Heisman and get the Trojans an 11-1 record rolling into the Pac-12 title game.
I think they give us a better game than Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think this probably is the game of the day Saturday. I know everyone will say Ohio State, Michigan's the game of the day, but something tells me this will be one of those, 3 2-point games that everyone looks back at as one of the games of the year. But the next one to get to, the Iron Bowl. I don't know why ESPN is messing up on me today. That's wonderful. The Crimson Tide taking on Auburn in what should be, well, not an interesting one here as we're used to seeing between these two. But Auburn was in this situation last year. They were trying to find a way and do just something. And they were able to take Alabama to 4 overtimes. This year, of course, it's in Tuscaloosa. So Tide are 22-point favorites, though.
Yeah, well, first, Cade, ESPN might be messing up. At least Best Buy's not trying to take over the show today.
That is true. That is true.
No, I think Auburn struggles continue. I think Alabama, honestly, I don't think this one is going to be much of a rivalry game this year. I think Alabama is going to take control early on. I think the defense is going to set the tone, create a couple turnovers, and they're going to jump out to an early lead and never look back in this one.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be all Alabama, especially this was in at Auburn. I could probably say Auburn can somehow make it close, but I don't even think even that's stretching it right there. Auburn, like you said, Andrew, Auburn's woes will still continue, and Alabama pretty much takes this one no problem.
I mean, Cadillac Williams has done a great job with what he's had to take over, pretty much getting Auburn that 2-0 surge, I guess you could say, to even put them in a position to win a bowl game. But my goodness, this is going to be a blowout. Alabama's going to have a whole lot of fun in this one. I think Tide, it would not surprise me if they cover the spread here.
No, I agree with that.
The next one to look at, South Carolina, Clemson, another big 11 a.m. game. We love our 11 a.m. games, don't we, folks? Tigers, number 8 in the country, still alive. South Carolina, they pulled one big upset last week over Tennessee. Can they do it again is the question. Vegas they don't think so. They've got Clemson as a 14.5-point favorite in this one.
Say big difference is Clemson has a much better defense, so that might be an issue for South Carolina offensively, though I would say Clemson at times still has their offensive woes, though I will say they've managed to at least fix a lot of that up with last week against Miami, that 30-point win. But still, it's like I believe this game has the potential to possibly be a shootout if offensively things can still go well for Spencer Rattler and company, but I want this upset so badly, but I'm going to take Clemson. I think their defense just will come through, and DJ will get will make some heroics during the game.
I think South Carolina's come off the big win against Tennessee. We've seen Clemson struggle at times this year. I think this is a winnable game for South Carolina. I think Rattler's been in big games before. He knows what he has to do. I'm going to take the upset. I'm going South Carolina on the road. They take down Clemson. I think it does turn into a shootout, and I think Spencer Rattler's able to outduel Clemson here. Give me South Carolina 35-31.
See, to me, this is one of those that I really want to pick the upset here, but at the same time, Clemson, when they're at home, is a completely different team than they are on the road. The Syracuse game really was the outlier there, I would say. It'll be close. It'll be one of those that'll come down to the wire, but the Tiger defense will make a big play late in the game, and that will lock it up, and Clemson will be 11-1. Then the next one, another huge game. This one, though, going to be a little bit more interesting. The not technically Civil War anymore. They don't call it that for some reason. It's Oregon State. I don't know. You can blame people in Oregon for that one. But the Ducks and the Beavers, always fun when they get together. Oregon State has the potential to knock Oregon out of the Pac-12 title race if the Beavers can get another huge win in Corvallis. But Ducks are 3-point favorites, and they've got a little bit of a hope that they can make the playoffs if enough chaos goes their way.
Yeah, it should be a fun game. Obviously, we'll see what they get here. It's kind of weird seeing Oregon State ranked this year. I feel like the last couple of years they've been pretty bad. So it's cool to see this game come down to a big ranked game. Both meaning a lot. Oregon State can try to play spoiler, obviously, depending on what happens around the rest of the Pac-12. But I'm going to say Oregon wins this game. I think they go on the road, find a way to get the job done. I think Nix has figured things out there. Ever since that first game, I know they lose a close game to Washington, but I think they're able to get the job done here on the road at Oregon State. Give me Oregon in a close win.
I'm not really sure how. It's like this one is like Oregon. It's like Oregon. Obviously, they came off a really close win against Utah. Probably with the way they started, they probably should have won the game pretty easily against Utah. But obviously, second half woes and managed to get a field goal in the fourth quarter. Oregon State, obviously, they're coming off two basically blowout wins against Arizona State and Cal. So obviously, for them, they feel like they have momentum going into this one. I'm going to pick an upset here. I think Oregon State will get a last-second field goal to win the game against Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be another intriguing one for sure. I think Oregon finds a way to not run away with it, but they make a stand, make a big touchdown late in the game. I think the Ducks escape in Corvallis in a game you'll look back and go, how in the world did Oregon win that one? The next one here, Kansas State, the real Saturday night game, Fox 7 o'clock. Wildcats are 11.5-point favorites, but this is only, I believe, the second time that both teams have met with a 6-win season. Just hard to think. This is only the second time both teams have met and be above 500.
That's actually very surprising.
Well, you got to remember, Kansas and Kansas State both have had their fair share of disappointing seasons.
I think Kansas, they've struggled big time over the last few weeks after getting off to a good start. I think the struggles continue. I think Kansas State's defense is going to be way too much for their offense, and their defense isn't good at all. And I think Kansas State's able to take advantage of that. I think Kansas State wins this game fairly easily. I think you're going to see it about 27-10.
Yeah, I probably agree with. I can't really add much to that. That's pretty much what I would have said. K-State takes it.
Yeah, I was like, Kansas's defense has shown that they still really cannot stop anybody. Yes, Jalen Daniels will come back. Yes, he might go off, but at the same time, that's not going to be enough to stop Kansas State and whoever they want to throw out there, whether it be, Adrian Martinez or Will Howard, whoever they want to run out there. Deuce Vaughn's going to have a big day. Malik Knowles will probably have a big day as well. It is going to be tough to stop the Wildcats in Manhattan. The next one here, Washington taking on Washington State. The Apple Cup, late night, 9:30, good old Pac-12 after dark. Huskies are 2-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, Washington's a weird team. They have some really good wins this year. They also got a couple losses that they probably should have won. So just a weird team out there. Washington State has been playing fairly well. Good mix of offense, defense. I mean, their offense I don't think is going to blow anybody away, but their defense is able to do enough to frustrate you and find a way to steal games. And I think Washington State's defense does that this weekend. I think they're going to do enough to frustrate Washington. A very good offense we've seen so far this year. But give me Washington State finding a way to win a defensive game here.
Yeah, I'd say in that match because both teams at times can be weird, but Washington's a bit can at times be inconsistent with their play at times, but I say Washington State, like you said, Andrew, Washington State defense does enough to mess with the Huskies, and that'll be enough for Washington State to win.
I think Washington finds a way to win this game. They remember what happened last year. They remember seeing Washington State fans storm their field celebrating. I think that the Huskies find a way. Penix has a big day, and Washington gets a huge win in the Apple Cup. The next one here, a rare Friday night ABC game. How often do you see this? Not very. Florida State taking on Florida. It's just weird seeing Saturday night football on Friday night. So you got Friday night football on ABC, 6:30 Central Time, 7:30 Eastern. Noles are 9.5-point favorites in this one. Gators are reeling after losing to Vanderbilt.
I'm going to take Florida State in this game. I think that the disappointing season for the Gators continues. We saw them struggle last week against Vandy. And I think Florida State's got a good mix of offense and defense. I know it's kind of been under the radar, I feel like, this year. But in a game like this, I think the defense is able to hold the Florida off enough. I do think it turns into a little bit of a shootout, not a dramatic one, but I think you do have Florida State here find a way to win a game 31-28.
I'd say you're going to have a bit of a back and forth early in the game, but Florida State is just way their season overall has been going. They're going to be too much for Florida, and Florida will go to 6-6, and Florida State will have a 9-3 season.
I think Florida covers here. I think that it's going to be a fun shootout between these two. But at the end of the day, Florida State at home with the season they've been having, they're going to have enough momentum going their way that they get the big win there.
It feels like it's been a while since Florida State's won the game between the two.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's usually a back and forth between them. You can never really tell. That's the best way to describe that one. This one's the same way. Tulane taking on Cincinnati Friday morning. This is a huge one because the winner of this one goes to the American Conference title game. The loser will not, and their chance at a New Year's Six game is over. The winner here will take on UCF, and the winner here will also host that game against UCF with the Knights losing to Navy. So it brings the interesting question, who is going to win this one? Vegas sides with the Bearcats since he's a 2-point favorite in this game.
Yeah, obviously, a lot of people are going to pick the Bearcats, especially off name. You know, they get the historic run last year, getting into the playoffs. One of those the non-power fives to get in. But I'll tell you what, these two teams are pretty identical. I mean, they both live off the offense, have a defense that can contain the other one, giving up less than 20 points a game. The Green Wave, though, continue their fun season. I'm going to pick them. This is one of those, I don't know if you call it an upset. It's an upset for Vegas. Not upset in terms of the rankings, but I'll say upset because of Vegas. Give me the upset on Friday morning. Tulane wins. They go to the conference championship game, and then we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think Tulane overall is better offensively, and I think defenses are kind of similar in some aspects. I think Tulane will do enough offensively to win this game.
Cincinnati will put up a great fight in this one at home, but at the end of the day, Michael Pratt's going to go off. It's going to be a fun time to watch, and Tulane is going to be playing UCF in the American title game. What a weird sentence to say.
No, very
10-2 Tulane. The next one here, the Thanksgiving Day game. It's the Egg Bowl. Mississippi State taking on Ole Miss. The big one, of course, the big question is not really about the game itself, more about Lane Kiffin. Reports coming out that Lane is going to take the Auburn job. He comes back, says, I have no idea what you're talking about. What in the world are you doing? Proceeds to go on this huge tirade on Twitter. And my goodness, that's kind of the big question around this. Auburn is expected to announce who their coach is on Friday, so there's that whole situation going on as well. But still, Rebels are 2-point favorites in this one. Ole Miss trying to put something together after getting beat by Alabama and Arkansas.
Yeah, let's hope those rumors aren't true, because what a shame for the players. I mean, not only if he does leave for him, but to lie about it for the whole week now. I know you can't just come out and say it at that point, but for whatever reason it got leaked. So, I mean, you know the players are asking him this week, and you know it's, I don't want to call it a distraction, but it's been a topic. So we'll see how much it does affect them when it comes to game time. With all that being said, though, I think they put it behind them. They need a good win, two losses in a row, especially struggling last week. I think they find a way to put it behind them. I think they actually use it as motivation, and they jump out on Mississippi State. And I think that they win this one, let's say 27-17.
I'd say with the ability of both teams, I think this will probably be a big shootout. But I think at the end of the day, Ole Miss has the better talent to win the shootout, and I believe they will.
This will be a fun one, but at the same time, this will be a shootout, like you said, Connor. And like you said, Andrew, I think Ole Miss will be able to put this situation behind it, but it won't matter because Will Rogers is going to go off. And I think Mississippi State on Thanksgiving night gets the upset over Ole Miss to really throw another wrench in this thing. And everyone goes, okay, well, I mean, Ole Miss lost this game. What do you do now? They're 8-4. Just what an interesting season it's been for the Rebels to get off to the hot start they did and then fall apart so quickly. The next one here, also a Friday game, Baylor and Texas, 11 a.m. again. Horns are 8.5-point favorites over the Bears. If you're Baylor, you're trying to get a win. You've lost the last 2 weeks. If you're Texas, you're playing for that spot of, one more day holding out hope that you can still make the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, it's a tough spot here for Baylor. Obviously, not the year they wanted after a tremendous season last season. But no, I think Texas is able to do it at home. I think they win this one by double digits. I think their offense is going to be too much for Baylor. Struggling defense that I thought would be better this year. So I think Texas takes advantage of that, and they get the job done at home.
I think this game's going to be more closer than what you're saying, Andrew. I think Baylor gives Texas a run for their money. But I think Texas will do with the back of Bijan Robinson will be able to do just enough to win this game. I think they'll probably barely niche the spread.
This will be a fun one here, but this is my other upset game I have. I think Baylor comes into DKR. They want to end the season on a high note, and Baylor finds a way to just keep it on the ground, eat up clock, make this game shorter and shorter. And I think Baylor finds a way to stun Texas and end that conversation early. But the next one here, as we will now kind of clear everything back out, looking at what has already been an interesting day of picks, it's now time to turn to the NFL. Got to exit out of all those here because if I don't, they're going to keep going forever. Yeah. But the NFL, obviously, Thanksgiving Day, a fun tradition. Who doesn't love it? I mean, one of the...
We're getting 3 games
well, we've always had 3, or we've had 3 for at least a while.
2.
We've
it's always the morning / whatever you want to call it, early afternoon for depending on the East Coast timing. Yeah. And then you get the mid lunch game, and then you get the dinner game.
See, I just keep it simple: the Detroit game, the Dallas game, and the Sunday night game.
That's true. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we always get the Detroit game.
Yeah. Well, it's a tradition unlike any other. I mean, Buffalo is going to keep their, I guess, their new home away from home. They played the Browns there last week, and they're going to play the Lions here this week. I don't know. Maybe Bills Mafia just stuck around, and maybe they'll just keep the party going there. Who knows? But the Lions have been on a roll. They've won the last 3, beating Green Bay, Chicago, and the Giants. They're still 9.5-point underdogs in this one, which makes sense when you're playing a team like Buffalo.
Yeah, you're playing arguably the best team in football. I'll tell you what, I would consider Detroit a little bit more if their defense was anything like if it was respectable at all. But the problem is there's no chance this defense is going to hold Josh Allen, hold Stephon Diggs, hold Gabe Davis. I mean, there's just no chance they're able to. And here's the thing, Buffalo's got one of the best defenses in football too. So I do think Detroit puts up some points this week though against them. But overall, again, I don't think they even come close to stopping Buffalo. So I'm going to take Buffalo 30 to 30. Let's go 30 to 20.
I'd probably say Detroit puts up a bit of a better fight. Buffalo still wins it. I think probably gets a 4-point win. I'd probably say about 27-23. Detroit does a good job. Defense gets an occasional stop for Detroit, but that won't be enough. Josh Allen will still have a good day and get the victory and break some tables along the way.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one because the Bills are going to run all over the Lions, but I think the Lions will put enough points on the board to get that backdoor cover late in the game. I still think the Bills take it, though. The next one here, the Giants taking on the Cowboys, another big Thanksgiving Day game. I always miss when they had the Cowboys and, at the time, the Redskins, because they always had, like, the Cowboys-Indians game. That was always kind of a funny thing, at least to me as a little kid. But now it's the Cowboys taking on the Giants. Still a huge game in the NFC East.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, you look at the way the NFC is going and the NFC East. Both teams need this game. I mean, you're in jeopardy if you lose to fall on 3 games back in the division, which essentially puts you back 3 games from a top seed because only one division team can get a higher seed. So basically, if you lose this game, you're probably not getting a home playoff game, where a win keeps you definitely in the hunt there to steal that. And right now, the front runner in the Eagles has to face the Giants twice. So I mean, Giants still can help themselves there in that case. But this is gonna be, I think everyone's expecting, Dak Prescott, Barkley, it's gonna turn into a little bit of a shootout. I think it's gonna go a little bit the other way. I think you got 2 big-time defenses. You're going to see them on Thanksgiving. Everybody's going to be watching. And that's why I'm going Giants, because Cowboys always lose those type of games, those big games, You just can't pick Cowboys in primetime football. But I think it's going to be a close battle. I think it's going to be back and forth. But in the end, I think Giants, they love to get ahead early and then control the clock, control the game with Barkley. I think that's their recipe. I think it's a unfortunate and dangerous recipe because, I mean, let's hypothetically say the Cowboys jump out to a 10-0 lead. I mean, I don't think Jones is that quarterback to kind of bring you back like that. So you kind of have to get out to a good start, trust your defense and running game. And I think that's what the Giants do here. I think they get the ball first, go down and score, and they control the game clockwise. And I'm gonna take the Giants in a close 17-14 win.
Yeah, I think it's gonna, Giants are going to rebound from what happened against the Detroit. I think Barkley has a solid day on the ground, but it's going to be kind of a bit of a lower scoring game. I'd probably give it 20-17 victory to the Giants. I think it's going to be more a defensive game, and that's something that's going to hinder Dallas if they can't get that offense going. If they get the offense going, then it would favor Dallas, but I think it's going to favor the Giants more.
To me, this is one of those, like you said, Andrew, I kind of agree. The Giants will get out to a hot start here. They'll keep everything rolling, but over the course of the game, the Dallas defense will make the necessary adjustments. And in a low-scoring defensive bout, Dallas gets a 14-13 win and comes from behind, and it's going to be an absolute battle. It's going to be one of those that it's not a primetime game. It's a midday game, but still got that big
It's still
feel.
prime time. Thanksgiving's prime time.
Hey, that's true.
I just can't believe this game is like that lopsided in terms of like the Vegas spread. Like I can't believe a division rivalry like this. And I get it on paper. Yeah, you're taking Dak over Jones, and we can play that game. But like Giants have been playing phenomenal football this year, especially defensively. I can't believe it's a 9.5 point spread, and even the plus or even the money line. Like to see it minus 455 for the Cowboys. I mean, that seems odd to me. Like they know what Daniel Jones is going to play or Barkley's not going to play for some reason.
Yeah, it's one of those that Vegas sometimes they'll throw one of these sillier spreads out here just to try to trick people into being like, oh, well that's obvious.
Yeah.
That's obvious. One or the other is going to happen. That's how they make their money there. They're smarter than all of us.
They are. I'm just saying, like, this is one that screams, like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what do they know? It's one of those, what do they know that I don't?
They know that something weird's going to happen. It's a Thanksgiving game. But the final one of the night, Thanksgiving, it's going to be New England taking on Minnesota. The Vikings, man, I mean, they got absolutely hammered by the Cowboys trying to come back from that 40-3 loss they had. This is a salty Patriots team, though, that's going to absolutely give them a game. Minnesota 2.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a little bit like the Eagles-Colts last week. I think, Vikings get beat bad in a big-time game against, the Cowboys, America's team. And now you got to stick with it, hear it all week. Our Vikings real, all that stuff. Kind of like the Eagles had it here. And I think they get off to a slow start here, and then I think it's going to continue through the game. It's going to be like, okay, have the Vikings been frauds? Is this the true team that's going to come out? And everyone always talks about how if the game's not at noon, Kirk Cousins is going to struggle, the Vikings are going to struggle. So I think you're going to kind of get a little bit of that tough hangover here for the Vikings. But in the end, I think that defense is able to do enough against a lower-tier offense. You saw it against the Jets here last week. So in the end, I think the Vikings defense is able to hold their ground in this game, and then the offense is able to do enough with a late time possession killing drive with Dalvin Cook ending in a game-winning field goal.
I think offensively, Minnesota has a much better game this week against New England than obviously what they did against the Cowboys. I think Kirk doesn't have an amazing game, but he does just enough to really get you, and Dalvin Cook will have a good day running over New England. I think the defense for Minnesota will pretty much just keep Mac Jones and company from really even doing anything. So I think Minnesota takes this one about, I'd say about 23-13 win.
So to me, I feel like this is going to be another defensive game. This is going to be another struggle. We saw what happened to the Patriots last week. We saw what happened to the Vikings last week. You put those two together, combine 13 points. Not saying that happens here, obviously. The Vikings will easily at least double their total from last week. They will score at least a touchdown, I think, in this game. But I think Minnesota wins it in another lower scoring game, going 17-10. Vikings pull out a win. But the next one here, Tampa Bay taking on Cleveland, one of the first Sunday games we're going to talk about. And my goodness, Cleveland and Tampa Bay, these are two teams that last year, we're talking about them as playoffs or in the hunt for them at the very least. But this year, it's the Buccaneers at 3.5-point favorites coming in. They're just trying to get a winning record going right now. And Cleveland's sitting at 3-7.
Yeah, no, Tampa Bay's coming off the bye. I think that's going to help them out. I think Brady needed that more than anybody. Tampa Bay's also hopefully able to get some guys back that were dealing with some injuries. So hopefully we're able to see some of those guys get back on the field. And hopefully that bye, I think, really came at a good time. You started having a big conversation about Leonard Fournette's struggles and what they were going to do with the running back spot. So hopefully they're kind of able to get them on the same page because it just didn't look like they were clicking at all. And I think it is able to help them. I think they come out and I don't think they're going to come out in like dominating fashion and everyone's going to be like, oh, Buccaneers are back and all that. But I think Tampa Bay comes out strong. They look better than they have in the last few weeks, but they're able to win this game overall. I will say 27-20.
I'd say, yeah, Tampa was just – I think Tampa's going to obviously having that bye week is going to be very helpful for them. I think especially, like you said, Brady needed it, and Tampa takes advantage of that and pretty much – takes care of Cleveland with not as much issues. I'd say give them a 27-13 win.
I think Tampa Bay fixes some of their issues. They get some people back. The bye week will obviously help the Buccaneers. I think it's going to be a big one, though. Browns are going to march down the field at the end of the game. Jacoby Brissett's going to throw another pick in the end zone to end it, and Tampa Bay holds on to win a 7-point win, I would say, for the Buccaneers in Cleveland. The next one here, the Bengals and the Titans, two teams that, it feels like we really haven't talked a lot about either team because they're just not as good you would think. But, the Bengals are 6-4. The Titans are 7-3. Titans, though, 1.5-point home dogs in this one.
Disrespect. I guess disrespectful to Tennessee.
That's mainly coming. I think they're mainly putting it on the explosive offense since he has, and just kind of Tennessee doesn't have as much of an explosive one. I think they're just that might boil down to that.
I don't know about that. I think Tennessee can go hand in hand with them. I think you'll see it this weekend. I think Tennessee's going to go out and get the win. I think Tennessee's defense is better than Cincinnati's, and I think they'll show here in this week. Bengals, you haven't been able to trust top to bottom, and Tennessee just keeps finding ways to win. Give me Derrick Henry. He's the best player on the field this weekend, and I think he shows it. So give me Tennessee at home. I'll go 24-14.
I'd say since he protects Burrow, I think Tennessee could possibly have a somewhat of a shootout. It depends on how things go, but I think I can't necessarily trust since he's offensive line to protect him forever, and I think that would be the dagger in the heart. I think Derrick Henry has a good day, and I think Tannehill will put on another good showing. I think Tennessee will get the win.
Yeah, this is one of those. You look at the matchup here. Cincinnati, a team that really can't run the ball to save their life. Tennessee's defense, one thing they can do really well is stop the run. They're going to make Cincinnati one-dimensional here. Burrow's going to have to throw a lot. The more you throw, the more you're going to have chances to get an interception, the more you're going to have chances to get a big sack or any good play on defense. And I think that's what's going to happen. Titans find a big way, force a couple turnovers, and the Titans get a win at home. The next one, the Texans playing the Dolphins. Texans, they're just trying to find that second win any way they can. They go to Miami this week, and the Dolphins are favored by 13.
Favored by 13, and they'll cover the 13. Houston's not a good football team. Tua's going to come out strong to start. Tyreek Hill is going to they don't have a chance to stop Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Miami wins big. I'm going to say 27-3.
I'd say I think Miami has a great day on both sides of the ball. I think Miami probably gets about a 30-3 win.
The Texans will play well on this game for exactly one drive. I don't know what drive it'll be, but they're not winning this game. Miami will beat them up. It'll be a blowout. The next one here, the Bears taking on the Jets. A lot of interesting situations going on with the Jets. People saying, is Zach Wilson the guy? Is all this happening? But at the end of the day, they're still 6-4. The Bears are a bit of a different story. Justin Fields taking accountability for what happened at Atlanta, saying, hey, the defense did their job. I let everybody down. The defense saying, no, we've got your back in this. Everything's fine here. This is one of those that, I don't know, it feels like two teams with two entirely different mood sets right now, I guess is the best way to put it. But still, at the end of the day, Jets are favored by 4.5.
So I disagree. I think you got two of the almost the same mood sets here. I mean, you got a quarterback controversy because of how bad Wilson's playing. You got the Fields drama, him having to apologize for his struggles in Atlanta and what happened in Atlanta and everything. So to me, they kind of both frustrating teams looking to get things right. You mentioned the Jets being 6-4, and because of that is why I think Wilson does not play this weekend and they go with the quarterback change because they're trying to save their season because they are fighting for a wild card spot. And I don't think they'll win it because of how superior the Bills are, but technically they're still fighting for the division, the only game out of that top spot in the division. So I think they do make that quarterback change, hopeful that can make a difference here on Sunday and get the offense going a little bit because they're trying to surprise everybody still and sneak into the playoffs. And Wilson just can't cut it. I mean, some of those throws on Sunday were pretty bad, and I think it's growing frustration out there in New York. And you get that, and I think the Jets come away with this win regardless of what quarterback they go with. I think they're able to beat the Bears at home.
It's like the way the Jets have played is kind of a far cry from how they started the season. Wilson obviously has regressed even more after playing, I'd say, pretty good earlier in the year, but even then that might be stretching it at times. But I think I'm going to go with I think regardless of who they throw out there, I think Bears get a surprising – well, then again, Justin Fields is questionable, so I assume he's still play. If Justin Fields play, I think Bears can get will get the upset, but if he doesn't play, Jets would take it. But I'm going to assume Fields is playing, and I think they do enough to get the upset in New York.
Well, see, and Wilson didn't even play earlier in the year. He got hurt in preseason, so a lot of their success came with Flacco in, and that's why I think they partially go back and make that change because the Jets at their best has not looked the best with Wilson this year, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, and to me, that's what I'm kind of getting at, why I think they're so different. The Jets are going to be willing to make that change. Chicago's still trying to rally around Fields, and I think that's what end of the day gives the Jets the win. Joe Flacco returns. Insert joke about elite quarterback here, and the Jets find a way to get to 7-4, and then the real drama kicks up. And okay, if Flacco's our guy, what in the world are we doing with Wilson here?
Well, see, the thing you gotta worry about is Wilson's confidence. Obviously, if you make a move like this, but with Flacco's age, I think there's no question you're gonna go back to Wilson in the long run. It's just if you do make that change, how does he respond? Does he go, okay, I need to get back in the room. I'm going to fix this, get ready for especially with his age, Flacco goes down or in the offseason, you do move on. Because, Flacco might have 1 or 2 more years maybe, or he might retire here shortly. Who knows? But so in the long run, I think it's still Wilson's team, but just the surprising playoff front. I don't even think Jets fans thought they'd be in the spot. So I think now they just kind of, I always mention it, and I think you agree with me. When it comes down to sports, if you have an opportunity to get in, you got to take advantage of it. Don't play that card where we're going to play conservative and whatever happens, happens. No, you got to take advantage of your shot to get in.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I hope it doesn't mess with Wilson's confidence level, but at the same time, you got to go with whoever's been playing better, and Joe Flacco's been playing better this season. So I think that's how the Jets get the win. However, if Fields plays, I expect this to be a extremely talented, extremely fun game. Fields will come out and have an unbelievable performance, I think. Bears will cover in this one, but I still think the Jets get the victory. Next one here, the Falcons taking on the Commanders. Both kind of surprise stories this year, I feel like, in terms of how they've bounced back. Atlanta, of course, 5-6. A lot of people kind of wrote them off as, okay, this is a rebuild year. You got Marcus Mariota in there. The Falcons, they're fighting potentially if the Buccaneers lose to the Browns. The Falcons have an opportunity to take the NFC South lead, which is not a sentence I ever thought I would say this season. But the Commanders are kind of the same way. Carson Wentz, not starting right now because one Mr. Taylor Heineke has come in to replace him, and my goodness, that has seemed to work for the Commanders. As long as Heineke's been in there, big win after big win for Washington. Commanders are 4.5-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I don't know. Heineke's like Tim Tebow to me. He's not a good quarterback. He just finds ways
He
to
just
somehow
kind of
grab
exists.
wins. This Commanders defense is what's doing the job to get these wins, in my opinion. But no, you hit it on the spot. I mean, two surprising teams. I don't think anyone expected Atlanta. I mean, I think we went back. I think if we went back and looked at the beginning of the year over wins totals, I think both these teams might have already surpassed their projected over-under wins for the season. I could be wrong, but I can't see either one being much ahead of that, especially Washington at 6 wins already. So it's gonna be a good game. I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out. You have a struggling Falcons offense coming in. They had obviously the big kick return from Patterson last week. You have a struggling Washington's offense pretty much all year at different points in the season, not even averaging 20 points a game. So this is going to be an odd game for me. What shows up more, Atlanta's offense or Washington's defense? In the end, I think Washington's defense is able to continue to do the job and get the job done, especially against a guy like Marcus Mariota. So give me Washington in a close defensive game. I'll say 20. I'm gonna go 20-16, and Washington gets a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, I'd say Washington's defense will be too much for Mariota and company to deal with. I think Heineke does enough to help them set up for touchdowns. I say Washington gets a 24-10 win.
I think the Commanders find a way to win this game. Their defense is going to have a big day. And the other matchup, I mean, the Washington offense versus the Falcons defense is going to be fun. A team that can't really score versus a team that, well, can't really stop that many people. I think Washington will be able to win enough matchups on both sides of the ball that the Commanders get a win. And we have to talk about a 7-5 Commanders team because, football never makes sense. Why would that happen? But the next one here, speaking of two teams that don't really make sense, the Broncos and the Panthers, Sam Darnold is back as the starter for Carolina. Now the third different quarterback the Panthers have gone to this season. And if you're Denver, I mean, it's the same old situation of just trying to find anything you can. 3-7 on the year. But the Broncos are 2.5-point favorites in this one, trying to get anything going.
I think Carolina still continues to have offensive woes, and their defense just isn't really going to be able to do is only going to probably do enough to try to keep Denver from at least scoring 20 or so points. I think Denver gets a 16-13 win.
Might as well throw a season ticket holder out there at quarterback. The amount of times they keep changing them and just going through everybody. I mean, they just can't stay consistent with it at all. And I mean, unless you find some type of rhythm, you're not going to do much. With that being said, I think Denver's defense is going to be too much. I think Denver comes out, wins this game over Carolina. Again, it's just a mess down there with Carolina. It doesn't seem like anybody knows what's going on. So Denver's going to win this game by double digits.
Yeah, this is going to be a brutal game to watch. If you are a fan of defense, you will probably enjoy this game. If you're a fan of offense, do not watch this. This will be painful to watch. Over-under set at 36. I think this is going to hit the under. This is going to be one of those tough games to watch, but I think Denver finds a way to get a 14-3 type of win where it's just going to be ugly. But the next one here, the Ravens taking on Jacksonville. Going to be an interesting one here. Jacksonville still trying to turn it around, get something going like we mentioned, I believe, on Monday's show. The Jags offense, I mean, they're putting up points compared to everyone else in the AFC South, but it's not translating to wins. Baltimore riding their defense almost all of season. It's been making big play after big play for Baltimore, though Ravens are 4-point favorites.
Yeah, and I mean, Jaguars defense, while it seems like, I mean, they're only giving up 20.5 points a game, which is kind of surprising based off of those division numbers we saw on Monday. So it's not like it's that much different from Baltimore overall in terms of numbers-wise. I think Jaguars actually find a way to get this upset. I mean, we've talked about it before. Baltimore, I mean, yeah, while they're finding ways to win, I don't really think they're blowing anybody away. I think everyone's because they're just finding ways to win. I think that kind of backfires here a little bit this weekend. I think Jacksonville is one of those scrappy teams that finds a way to hang around and find a way to just keep games close offensively and defensively. They got a running back that they can control the clock with. And I think they're able to do that here this weekend and find a way to steal a game at home.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville, like you said, will just kind of hang around with them. But I think Lamar Jackson will end up throwing a late game pick that Jacksonville will take advantage of, and Trevor Lawrence gets a touchdown to put them ahead by 4, and Baltimore will not be able to overcome it late in the game.
So I think Baltimore finds a way to win. It's going to come on the leg of Justin Tucker if they do get this win. I think the Ravens' defense is going to step up, make a few big plays, because, my goodness, this Baltimore offense is going to continue to sputter. This is going to be one you're going to look at. Jacksonville's going to hang around. They're going to hang around and hang around. This is going to be a 17-14 type of game, I'll say. Baltimore will get a big touchdown. Jacksonville will be getting a big touchdown, and I think the Ravens send it into overtime and then win it from there.
All right.
There we go.
I'm down for an overtime game.
Or we get a tie or some crazy thing. I don't know.
Don't say it.
This would be the game.
No ties.
No ties.
Every game is a tie. What if we had a week like that where every game was just a tie?
I would not come in. I'd be too bad.
You'd just be like, no show this week, guys. Every game was a tie. A game that certainly should not be a tie. The Chargers taking on the Cardinals. Both teams coming off absolutely brutal losses. One in a close game you feel you should have won if you're the Chargers, and one if you're Arizona, where, everything went wrong against the Niners. My goodness. Arizona they're in a rough spot. 4.5-point underdogs in this one. If Kyler Murray plays, that would be a welcome sign to see. If not, you're still rolling with Colt McCoy out there, I would think. Maybe not. I don't know. If you really wanted to go to McSorley for some reason, I guess you could. We'll see what Arizona does in this one.
Yeah, it's a shame for Arizona. This season I thought they could have been pretty good. It just hasn't. They've had injuries left and right. Obviously, Hopkins starts the year with the suspension. So they've never been. I got to be interested to see if they had any games this year with everybody on the field. I don't think they have. You finally get Hopkins back. Murray goes down. Connor goes down. Get those two back. Zach Ertz goes down. So, just everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for Arizona this year. And with that being said, I think the Chargers are able to come out, get the win on the road against a struggling Arizona team. Just, again, nothing's gone right for them. And I think things continue to struggle on Sunday.
I think it's going to be one of those where it's like if Murray is not playing, which I probably would say he probably isn't going to. I know he says questionable, which means he might play. He's more likely will play, but I don't know. I think even then it's like it's still going to – it's like I think Chargers are just going to – they're going to jump on Arizona and pretty much hold on, do enough to keep a distance between them and the Cardinals, and they get the victory.
Yeah, I think the Chargers get a big win here, especially if Kyler Murray doesn't play. This is going to be another one of those where if it's McCoy out there again or McSorley or whoever Arizona wants to throw out there, it is going to be another long and brutal day for Arizona fans. But if Kyler Murray plays, this could be a fun shootout. Maybe depends on truly how healthy Murray is out there. But I still think the Chargers would find a way to win. The next one here, the Raiders taking on the Seahawks. Both teams, you look at that injury report, not that bad. Only one injury for each side.
Especially this late in the year.
Yeah, this late in the year, that's good to see. Seattle, 3.5-point favorites in this one. Both teams a bit interesting, I guess, is how to put their season. The Raiders, of course, have had a rough season, to put it, nicely, I guess is the way there. But they did get an overtime win at Denver. And Seattle, the surprise story of the year, 6-4. Still finding ways to win games. They did lose to Tampa Bay in their last game, though.
Yeah, both teams having a surprising season. One a better surprise than the other. People thought Raiders would be fighting for a playoff spot here, but obviously they've struggled surprisingly to a 3-7 year. While Seattle's been surprising everybody with how well they've been playing, and Seattle's coming off the bye week here, so I think again, not that they had a bad loss against Tampa Bay. Any loss to Tom Brady isn't a bad loss, but I think they were able to work some things out, figure it out, regroup. Take the week off and come into this week fixing things with a lot of strengths, and I think they're able to come out, get a victory here. Pete Carroll, obviously a fantastic coach, been around for a while, and he's able to fix things, and they're able to get this win against the Raiders at home. I'll say 27-23.
I'd say what's going to happen is with between these two is that Derek Carr and company will have a great first half, have about a 14, 17-point lead, and then proceed to choke it. And Seattle and company will take take the victory late in the game.
I mean, I agree. I think Derek Carr will have a big day. It's going to be fun to watch this Raiders team. It's going to look like they're starting to put things together, but Seattle's offense is going to be right there, always matching them, and I think the Seahawks eventually take it late in the game. The next one here, the Rams taking on the Chiefs. I mean, the Rams, obviously the nightmare season going on, 3-7, everything just not going well for L.A. Kansas City back at 8-2. Chiefs are 14.5-point favorites. Vegas expecting a blowout here.
And I know it has Matthew Stafford as questionable, but he was ruled out for the game, so I don't think so. He shouldn't be playing. Obviously, you have everyone else is questionable, top to bottom for both teams, unless they were out already. But I don't think even if Stafford was playing, it wouldn't be enough for them to the spread might go down a little bit, but even then Chiefs still take it. They get about I'll be generous and give a 13-point win over the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything going wrong with the Rams don't give them much of a shot here, especially on the road. Chiefs win fairly easily.
Yeah, I would say this could be one of those Kansas City wins by 20-plus type of games. Yeah. But Kansas City will find an easy way to win this one. I mean, it's just what a disaster for the Rams this has been, and they had even more injuries on top of it. Then the Saints and the Niners, two teams still trying to figure it out. New Orleans, I mean, they're still technically in that division race. Everyone technically is, which is, my goodness. And then the Niners, they're 6-4. They're trying to emerge as the team in the NFC West, trying to battle it out there with Seattle. So Niners are 9.5-point favorites in this one as they try to get a little bit of momentum still going in their direction. They got that 3-game win streak. People looking at it, though, you beat the Rams, you beat the injured-up Cardinals. You did beat the Chargers, though, so they're trying to just keep that going and ride this win streak.
Yeah, and there's no reason why they can't get it done again this weekend against the Saints. Another team that struggled, doesn't have much going for them. Like you said, they're fighting for the division, but overall, on paper, this team looks a little outmatched. So I like San Francisco in this game and stay within the game there of Seattle for the division lead.
Yeah, I think top to bottom, San Francisco is a much more sound talent, obviously more sound and talented team. Obviously, New Orleans has been playing much better, but their defense is still very suspect. But I think with how good Frisco's defense is, I think Frisco will shut New Orleans down enough throughout the game, and Jimmy G and company do enough to get themselves a comfortable 13-point lead to win the game.
Yeah, I think the Niners are going to do what they always do here. They're going to rely on their defense. They're going to run the ball down your throat. Jimmy G will make a few big plays when he needs to. San Francisco is going to get the win here. They're going to take care of business. The next one, though, the Packers and the Eagles. Man, the Eagles 9-1, still rolling. Green Bay struggling. Not a sentence you hear a whole lot of, especially when Aaron Rodgers is there. But it doesn't matter. Philadelphia, 7-point favorites in this one. Can the Eagles pull it off? Andrew, your analysis.
Well, of course they can pull it off, the 9-1.
I don't know. You never know.
But I will never take an Aaron Rodgers team lately. I think Green Bay comes in, makes it a game. I think Green Bay covers. I think Eagles win a close game here on Sunday Night Football. And I think Eagles do just enough to get the job done, like a 23-20 type game, somewhere along those lines. But, I mean, the Eagles' defense has been phenomenal this year. Even the last few weeks, they've still been playing pretty well. It's been the offense that's struggling. I know that sounds weird, giving up 32 points to Washington, but again, it was a late touchdown there on one of those fluke, lateral plays you want to say late in the game that gives Washington that touchdown, and a couple offensive miscues, putting Washington in good field position. So Eagles defense has been a huge strong point. And obviously, I talked about it at the beginning of the year, the Eagles jumping out those early leads and worrying me in the second half. You saw that in the Washington game. They fixed it for the Indianapolis game with the two late touchdowns there in the fourth quarter. But no, I think this is going to be a battle back and forth, and it's going to take a late score to seal this game away at home.
I think what's going to happen is both teams are going to take swings at each other. I think Rodgers will have some heroics late in the game, but Jalen Hurts and company get a very late touchdown to seal the game, to win the game by win 24-20.
I mean, I think Hurts has a great day. This is going to be a fun game to watch. Green Bay will try to keep themselves in this, but at the end of the day, Philadelphia will start running them over late in the game.
Yeah, I just think, while obviously their offense is struggling, I think their defense has been underrated and has actually been playing well. So I think their defense does enough to keep them around all night long.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think it's going to be one of those, Philadelphia will have one of those more long, sustained drives in the fourth quarter, and that gets them the win. But the final game in another edition of Why the Heck Is This a Monday Night Game? Pittsburgh taking on Indianapolis. Two teams that I'm not sure anyone really wants to see play on Monday night. I'll never understand why we can't start flexing games after like week 3. Come on, guys, get with it. Just let it happen.
It's the NFL.
But
you're gonna get you expect what you get.
Well, I don't know if you can flex a Monday night game because
You
of
should
the
be able to.
day off stuff. Because like they plan it where like sometimes you come off the short week, sometimes you come off a long. I know you can flex Sunday games. No question. I don't know if you can flex it the day of the game.
I feel like
they
should have like a 3-game pool of like, we're gonna pick one of these 3. If not, you're getting a late Sunday game or something like that. But no one listens to my ideas. Sometimes there's a good reason for that. Sometimes there isn't.
Well, it's the NFL. They don't listen to anyone's ideas.
That's also true. But the Colts are 2.5-point favorites in this one. I mean, Indianapolis played Philadelphia close. They beat the Raiders. They're having some success, I guess you could say, if you want to call Philadelphia the most moral victory you could possibly have. Steelers, they got in a shootout with the Bengals, and they beat the Saints. So each team 1-1 in their last 2 games here, trying to get something going. But my goodness, this is one of those that to me is kind of hard to pick just because I don't trust either of these two teams.
I don't trust either team as well. So in the end, I'm going to go with the veteran high-class coach versus a 2-game coach so far. So give me Mike Tomlin to get his team ready in this game, get his team ready. I think defense comes out, create some big plays, setting up the offense for good, easy field position type drives. And I think Steelers get the win on the road on Monday Night Football because of this. So a lot of credit to Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it'll come down to experience and especially down to coaching. And obviously Tomlin has it several times over Jeff Saturday. I think Pittsburgh will get the win they need to at least make themselves 4-7. I think Kenny Pickett will have a solid day, and there's just not much Indianapolis will be able to do.
Yeah, this is one that I think the Colts come out swinging early, but over the course of the game, the Steelers' defense is going to settle in, and they're going to make whatever plays they need to do. If Kenny Pickett, he can just kind of sit back and relax a little bit more in this one, make a few throws here and there, but I think Pittsburgh finds a way to get the job done. But that will do it for today's show as the sun continues to slowly rise up there. It's about almost 9:30 a.m. here. Not used to doing morning shows, but hey, that's okay. For Andrew Santangelo and Connor Gray, I'm Cade Kennedy. If you enjoyed what you saw today, feel free to subscribe to our channel. Like I said at the beginning of the show, like the video, comment below. If you're watching on Twitch or want to follow us on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/NWTV7 and give us a follow there. For more updates on when we go live, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at NWTV7. And once again, for all of us, have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope wherever you go, you have safe travels and everything goes well. And don't get yourself trampled on Black Friday either. That's a pretty important thing not to do as well. But until next time, when we come back, it's going to be a whole lot of recapping to do because, man, it is going to be a wild sports weekend. But until then, have a great one, everybody.